Let's see here. I want to make sure that we're actually broadcasting. So, they got him. Old Yahya Sinwar is, well, he's not just taking a dirt nap. He made a high velocity exit. Gone with the boom. He stopped ducking and dodging and started decomposing and became part of the terrain permanently. He went from combat to compost, and the people who sent him there weren't even special forces. It wasn't the IAF. They didn't take 80 tons of bombs or any kind of exploding beepers. All it took was a few cadets who were only 9 months into their service. As a matter of fact, they weren't even soldiers on October 7th last year. So 377 days after Yahya Sinwar kicked off the horrors of October 7th and led his men into Israel to pillage and burn and do all sorts of terrible things, he got his comeuppance. He took the blast radius retirement program, and he is now meeting with his maker. Now, it's said that, you should never celebrate someone's demise. That's kind of a culturally inappropriate thing to do, and I've already had people say that we shouldn't celebrate this because there are Israelis celebrating all across Israel tonight. They are having impromptu street parties, dance parties, you name it. And I just have to point out Proverbs 11:10. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 10, which says, "When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy." Well, there are shouts of joy tonight all across the country of Israel. Shouts of joy that have been a long time coming. One of the big obstacles to peace in the region has been taken off the chessboard. He's out. So let's talk about how it happened. Like I said, it wasn't a special operations raid. It wasn't a bombing from the sky or anything like that. It was a group of cadets in Rafah who were on their first combat operations, and they were flying a drone and just happened to see some movement inside a building. They went after, they sent the drone in there to check it out after they kind of lit it up, I guess. And they saw a wounded man with his face covered by a dirty t-shirt sitting in a chair inside this bombed out house. And the drone that went in there spotted this man. He tried to sort of freeze and not move for a few minutes, but realized that the drone was looking at him and then threw a stick at the drone. He was already wounded at that point. And just moments later, an IDF sniper hit him right in the head. Now, it is kind of ironic that Yahya Sinwar spent 20 years in the care of the Israeli penitentiary system for his role in other terrorist activities. And in that time, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And he had that tumor operated on by the great Israeli medical system. And they cured him of his brain tumor. And then he was released after 20 years in a prisoner exchange. Now, in the time that he was in prison, he studied very deeply Israeli culture, Israeli language. He learned Hebrew. He studied and got to know a lot. He read all sorts of biographies of Israeli heroes and learned everything he could about the IDF and its tactics, techniques, and procedures. And he put that information to good use after he got out of prison, when he got sent back to Gaza and became head honcho in the Hamas organization. He today, ironically, the IDF sniper took out the rest of his brain after the Israeli medical system had taken out a portion of it 20 years ago. It wasn't 20 years ago, not quite 20 years ago. So Sinwar became Sinwas today, and the world is rejoicing. The world is a safer place. The world is a little bit nicer place today because Yahya Sinwar is gone. Now, I probably would have gone live earlier. I actually had this live scheduled since September. I had actually put this live up last September on my channel and just had it scheduled and unlisted where only I could see it, because I had a feeling this day was coming sooner rather than later. And I wanted to be able to go live immediately when it happened. Well, just my luck, I had to get the news about what happened to Sinwar this morning as I was boarding an airplane in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, to come back to the United States. And so I've had a 2.5-hour flight to Miami, and then I didn't have time to do the live when I landed there because I had to run to my connecting flight to Savannah. And then I didn't have time to do it when I got to Savannah because we were trying to make it over here for dinner to my brother-in-law's house in Albany, Georgia. Or I'm sorry, Augusta, Georgia. He's just outside of Augusta. And so we were driving like crazy to try to get here even by 6 p.m. And it turns out that we were a little late. And we got here and I thought, okay, I'll just do the live real quick when I get here while they're fixing up dinner. And when I got here, they were like, oh, we don't have internet back yet because of the storm. Because their house got hit pretty hard during the storm. My brother-in-law lost 64 trees on his property due to the storms. And so they don't have internet. So then I had to run around like crazy, set up the Starlink, get it online, figure it out before I could get online here. That's why I was late. Okay? So this is a day that's been a long time coming for Israel and for the world. You know, Yahya Sinwar was responsible for the demise of thousands of people. And anybody who's responsible for the demise of thousands of people, it's a good day when they get their comeuppance. The Bible says that if you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. Jesus said that in the Garden of Gethsemane. And that proved true for Yahya Sinwar. Now, what are the reactions from the world? Well, obviously, big celebrations in Israel. In Gaza, however, they're not celebrating, as you can imagine. As a matter of fact, I was looking on some Telegram channels that are run by Hamas, and they're still saying Sinwar is not actually dead. He's not actually dead yet. They're saying, no, this is all fake news. He's not really dead. And, you know, then they're also saying that they will respond very forcefully and that this changes nothing. There will still be no hostage rescue, or I'm sorry, hostage negotiations. Now, on that note, the Israelis did not find any hostages near Sinwar. And we've been saying all this time that he's been hiding in plain sight. He's been dressing like a woman. It turned out when he met his demise, he was not dressed like a woman. He was carrying a weapon. He was very skinny. He had on his person some fake IDs, and he was killed with two of his bodyguards or lieutenants. And when they collected up the pocket litter and stuff from those three guys, what they found were ID cards. One of his bodyguards had an ID card from an UNRWA school. He was a school teacher at UNRWA. That's not surprising to anybody who's been following this conflict. They've found many terrorists now who are directly connected to UNRWA. And they also found weapons, grenades, and a large amount of cash on his person. So that was not a fake UNRWA ID that they found. That was a real UNRWA ID for the bodyguard who happened to also work as a teacher at an UNRWA school. And so, again, they found weapons, grenades, but when you look at one other thing that they found a lot of intelligence on his person, notes and maps. One of the maps that they showed has a map of the tunnels under Rafah, as a hand-drawn map. And they say that some of the tunnels that are on that map were tunnels that the IDF has not found yet. So that raises the hope, at least, that there will be found some of the hostages who are being held in those tunnels. But he was not surrounded by hostages when they found him. They've been saying all along they believed he had 40 or so of the remaining living hostages surrounding him at all times. Well, that turned out not to be true. And the place where he met his demise also is telling, because it was very close to the border with Egypt. And from what he had on his person, it looks like he was trying to get across that border into Egypt and escape. As you know, they had made, the Hamas had said that they would not negotiate for the release of any hostages unless Israel promised that Yahya Sinwar could not only survive, but be allowed to leave Gaza. And that's now off the table, obviously. But the remainders of Hamas, which is are dwindling by the day, say that nothing has changed. I went to, like I said, this Hamas website. Let's go see if I can find it real quick. Gaza Now has, okay, so now they've started putting up, they've already made a martyr out of him. And they say the heroic Mujahid leader Yahya Sinwar was martyred defending his land, people, religion, honor, and holy sites. That's the latest from Gaza Now. I'm just looking through here to see what they have to say. Now, Hezbollah, for its part, up in the north, is saying, Hezbollah announces the escalation in support of Gaza. Based on the directives of the resistance leadership, the Islamic Resistance Operations Room announces the transition to a new and escalating phase in the confrontation with the Israeli enemy, which will be discussed in the events and developments in the coming days. So Hezbollah, we can expect, will try to escalate because of this. And we'll see what they have left. I would say Israel is going to say, bring it at this point, because Israel has literally wiped out the entire upper chain of command of Hezbollah. And now they have wiped out almost all of the upper level chain of command of Hamas. So both Hamas and Hezbollah are struggling now for leadership. And now get this. Anthony Blinken came out and made a statement and said, hey, it's a good day for Israel. The world is a little safer. He was responsible for the deaths of a lot of people, including Americans. And we hope that the new leadership of Hamas will be more open to negotiating and choosing a peaceful future with Israel. Here's the thing that makes that kind of sickening. The fact that Anthony Blinken is hoping that Hamas is able to survive and bring on new leadership, promote some of their foot soldiers to be the new leaders of Hamas, is a slap in the face. It's a backhand to Israel. On one hand, he's saying, congratulations, Israel, it's a good day, etc., etc. On the other hand, he's saying, I hope that Hamas's new leadership will look for a better future, meaning Hamas will survive and get new leadership. Now, Joe Biden said something very similar to that. None of that is surprising. They have been sort of trying to play both sides of the fence for a long time. So as Hezbollah was threatening an escalation in this conflict in the north, over the last few hours, the Air Force of the Israeli army has been attacking dozens of terrorist targets inside Lebanon in the Bekaa Valley, which is deep. If you look at a map, that's deep inside Lebanon. And they were hitting weapons caches, military buildings, and launchers that were already aiming missiles at Israel. So Hezbollah was in the process of setting up more tubular complaints that they were going to send Israel's way, and Israel struck those targets and destroyed them. So can we say that Israel's on a roll right now? It sure seems like it to me. Israel seems like they are just crushing it. And I spoke to Amir Tsarfati just briefly earlier today. One of the things he's saying is that you ain't seen nothing yet, because the Israelis are about to unleash on Iran. They've been waiting for the preparations to be made and for other American and other countries' assets to get into the region. So now that the United States has their THAAD missile arrays on the ground inside Israel, along with a couple hundred U.S. troops, they are now arrayed down in southern Israel, and are getting set up, ready to defend Israel against any further missile attacks by Iran. As I mentioned, I have visited the site down in southern Israel in the Negev, where the United States military has already several hundred troops stationed around a large radar facility. And that radar facility is designed to plug into the THAAD missile battery. Thank you, Royal. Appreciate that. It's designed to plug into a THAAD missile battery. And so now they've sent the missiles to go along with it. Before, they were just using it basically for informational purposes and passing on maybe some information to Israel. But now the United States will be able to actually help Israel in defending itself. Now, some people have speculated that when Israel decides to strike Iran, that the United States might actually be involved in that strike. I have to say, I would be a little surprised if that happens. If it happens before the election. Now, without a doubt, the Biden administration is pressuring Israel to just hold off on your strike on Iran, please, until after November the 5th or whenever election day is. Let's just not escalate anything further until after election day, because any escalation is going to look bad on us. It will tell us how Israel is thinking about the U.S. elections, whether or not they actually wait. If the attack on Iran comes after the elections, then you'll know that the United States really twisted their arm because they want to attack sooner. If they attack before the elections, which they probably will, that means that they're actually making a calculation that if they kick off this attack on Iran before the elections, it will help Donald Trump, because the Israelis want Donald Trump to be reelected. They know that Trump will be a much better friend to Israel than the Biden administration has been by a long shot. So it's kind of a foredrawn conclusion, I would say, because of that the attack will happen before the elections in whatever 40 days or whatever it is, 40-something days. Now, for a time, the Israelis had actually stopped attacking Lebanon at the behest of the Americans. The Americans had actually started to threaten Israel with basically a loss of support. They were not going to send them the ammunition and weapons that they need if they continued attacking, if they didn't give some sort of a pause in the north. And so they did. They paused for a few days, and then they went right back to it. So I think that the United States is in a much weaker position than most people realize in this conflict. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate that. The Israelis have some real leverage over the United States right now, because they know that the Biden administration is looking at their poll numbers and going, this is not looking good for Kamala Harris. We've got to do whatever we can to keep this thing from blowing up even further in Israel, because any further escalation is going to be bad for the Harris administration either way. And so we've got to slow them down. We've got to get them to slow their roll, but they're not slowing down. And they just keep on winning. They just keep hitting and taking out commanders and weapons caches and rocket launchers and foot soldiers and everybody in between. And so what that tells me is that Israel is kind of throwing in their lot with Donald Trump. Now, some people, that's debatable, right? But that's what I think is happening. People are asking where I am. I'm near Augusta, Georgia tonight. Just got back from Haiti yesterday. If you have not watched the live that I did last night telling you about my crazy, wild Mr. Toad's wild ride across Port-au-Prince to meet with some gang leaders yesterday, you're going to want to go watch that. It's worth watching. It's had more than 100,000 views, quite a bit more than the normal lives that I do. So obviously people like it. Thank you, Isaiah. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate all of your contributions. It's you're really helping me to become more independent, to be able to go where I feel like I need to go, to do what I feel like I need to do, regardless of whether or not I get paid. So that whole trip to Haiti, that was not a paid trip. That was not a CBN trip or a Newsmax trip. Although I did manage to turn around and get I did a live last night on Greta Van Susteren's show. But I made the decision to go without any paycheck in mind, just to go to help Victor Marx. And I always figured, well, at the very least, I'll be able to make some lives out of it. But in that case, I wasn't even sure if I could do that because, if you're going into a place like that and you're meeting with wanted gang leaders, the gang leader we met with yesterday, matter of fact, I mispronounced his name throughout the entire live yesterday. I kept calling him Lakmanju. It's Lamo Sanju. And I kept calling him Lakmanju because I've been in Armenia for about 4 months this year, and my one of my favorite foods in Armenia is a very, very, very thin crust pizza called Lakmanju. And so when I was meeting with Lakmo Sanju yesterday, I kept thinking about Armenian pizza, and so I just couldn't remember how to pronounce his name correctly. But anyway, this guy's the leader of the 400 Mawoso gang, the gang that kidnapped the 21 American missionaries a couple years ago, the Mennonites, and held them hostage, including women and children. This is that gang. And I was with the guys who held them hostage yesterday. And so when you go to have meetings like that, you don't always know if you'll be allowed to publish anything that you might manage to film. You don't even know if they're going to allow you to film anything. There was a lot over the last 2 days that I saw and experienced that I was not allowed to film because the gang members would say, no, you can't film that. You cannot film there. Do not point your camera over there. So it was, I didn't know if I could do it. But when I got there and I was able to film, that was great. But then the question arises, well, is it going to jeopardize my safety or the safety of someone else if I put this stuff out? It's something I always have to think about in all of my reporting. And so I made the decision to go not knowing whether or not I'd be able to actually monetize it by publishing anything. And so your contributions help me be able to do that. Not only that, but they also help us be able to help a lot of the people that we meet. So we were able to give money to some Haitian families who had been deported from the Dominican Republic. The DR has committed to deporting 10,000 Haitians a week out of their country because they're just overrun with Haitians now. And they're taking a very hard line on that illegal migration, doing what the United States ought to do. But the problem for many of the Haitians is that they leave Haiti because they're literally starving. I mean, there's nothing in Haiti to find people who are malnourished. You can tell because their hair turns orange. Black people, when they don't have any protein in their diet, they get orange hair. And so there's a lot of orange-haired people walking around in Haiti. You see them everywhere. So it is just that bad. And so, while they shouldn't be breaking the law, it's hard to blame them for trying to go somewhere else because there's no food, and the place where they live is run by gangs, and they don't want to live there. I don't blame them. And so while I'm not going to assist somebody in breaking the law, I'm not going to help them come to the United States illegally, for example. I was able to give money to several families who had been deported out of the Dominican Republic. And then we gave money to one lady in Gantier, which is the town that was taken over by the gang, because her whole family fled when the gang came in and was pillaging everything. Her whole family left, and she was old and sort of decrepit. And thank you, Lydia. And so she stayed, but she had no food. She had nobody to care for her. And so we gave her some money while we were there, helped her out. You guys give us the ability to do that to a greater extent than when we would have otherwise. And so I appreciate that. So please hit the like button, chat, hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and engaging in the chat are ways that tell YouTube that more people need to see this content. And that's a great way to help me grow this channel and get this information out to more people. So thank you for doing it. I appreciate that. I also wanted to tell you that I'm going to have a lot more content coming out from the trip to Haiti. But again, I kind of had to wait until I was out of there. Chuck, this is an urgent request. Please let me know the name of your church in Panama. Okay, my church in Panama is called Behold Church in Anton Valley, or El Valle de Anton. It's called Behold Church. You can look them up on Facebook. They don't have a website. Bleep bleep. Yeah. Thank you, One Tired Mama. So I found out this morning at breakfast, because we were staying at a hotel where there's a lot of Intel-related people hanging out. So as we were getting ready to check out of the hotel in Port-au-Prince this morning, was talking to some guys at breakfast, and they said, there was a lot of chatter on the Intel channels yesterday because there was a big convoy of gang related people that was zipping around leaving out of Port-au-Prince, going up toward Gantier. And we were kind of like, that would have been us. That was us. Because so they have drones up, and they're actually, looking for gang activity. And when they see a convoy of armored and nicer looking vehicles all moving very fast, weaving in and out of traffic, and moving all together, they know that that's a gang convoy. Thank you, Jay Moreland. Appreciate it. And they apparently saw us. Now, I'm very glad that nobody in Haiti yet has any kind of drone with munitions on it, because we might have gotten, a grenade dropped on our head while we were driving around out there. But it certainly caused some consternation. And so they were running around trying to figure out what it all meant. And then we told them, no, it was us. We were up there communicating with some of these gang leaders, and we actually talked them into reopening the road. So they had closed the road between Port-au-Prince and Gantier when they took over Gantier, and they were not allowing, they were not allowing traffic to go back and to pass back and forth. They had just completely blocked the road. They had barricades up with tires. They had I-beams across the, hey, thank you, Dee, that's very kind. They had I-beams across the bridges. They had big piles of dirt that were in the way all along the road going up there. But because we had talked to the gang leader through Jimmy Cheresier Barbecue, and he had contacted this guy, Lamo Sanju. Well, they had actually called ahead and had their guys open the road up so that they could take us up there and give us a tour of Gantier. And when they did that, they opened up the road, then the locals started saying, hey, they're taking down the roadblocks. And so when we got up there with our convoy, and we were like standing in the middle of the road, and the gang leader was pointing out, what they had done and telling us how they had taken over the city. These first it was just mopeds and motorcycles sort of tentatively started kind of coming through. And then Victor Marx is talking to the gang leader, and he's saying, look, you got to open this road. Like, if you want any sort of legitimacy, thank you, MM, and thank you, Carol. If you want any sort of legitimacy, you've got to reopen this road and let supplies come through. And the guy says, oh, okay, I'll open the road. Like, I'm a man of my word. If I say the road's open, then the road's open. And I'm gonna commit right now. And Victor Marx is like, will you shake my hand on it? Will you commit to opening this road? And he's like, yes, I will. I'm a man of my word. If I say it, it happens. And he shook hands with Victor Marx. And right at that moment, we heard a truck coming, and here comes a fuel tanker, like a gasoline tanker truck. And we're all like, what's he doing here? And look, that tanker truck didn't know the agreement that we were making. All he knew was that the word had gone out, the rumors had gone out that the road was being reopened. And so he started driving up and going through these places that had been blocked. And right at the moment when they made the deal and shook hands on it, here comes the first truck full of fuel that had passed by there in a couple of months, and the road was open, and we stepped off the road, and they let the truck pass, and it went on up to the next town. Now they just need to talk to people in the next town into opening the road enough for traffic coming the other direction, and we'll be all set. I want to show you all somebody.
You got to meet her because she's going to lay down.
So
you got to say hello.
And this is little
Lilac.
Hey, little Lilac, little sweetheart.
Hi, is that your Uncle Chop?
Hi. This is my new little niece who was just born to Connie's brother, Corey. And that's why we came here, so that we could see her. This is the first time we've been able to see her.
Yeah,
and oh, is she
sweet
precious.
Girl. Are you live?
Yeah, you're live.
YouTube
Lilac,
star.
say hi. Say hi, Lilac.
She's ready to go take her nappy.
Oh, she's going to lay down. Oh.
Okay.
God bless you, little one.
You want to come back
God
down,
bless you.
Connie? Oh, come on, sweetheart.
Okay. There's little Lilac. It's lilac or lilac, like the flower. We don't really know how to pronounce it. Neither do her parents, actually. They're just like, we're going to call her whatever people want to call her. So, yeah, isn't she pretty? Not lilac with a C. Uncle Chuck, that's right. Man, I love the babies. I love the babies. Oh, man. I love that new baby smell. So, all of that story, I just wanted to add to what I had told you yesterday about that story, because what we did yesterday was unprecedented. The government has not reached out to the leaders of those gangs and said, hey, let's sit down and talk and see how we can work together. The government has not bothered to do that. The only thing the acting prime minister has done is he has said back in June, when the Nigerian peacekeepers showed up, he said all of the 200 plus gangs across Haiti better lay down their arms right now and give up. And the gangs are like, yeah, good luck with that. Look, I will say this. Right now there's only 400 peacekeepers in Haiti, and they're not doing much to keep the peace. As a matter of fact, in some of the streets that we were on yesterday, today they had firefights there. There was gunfire there. I got some alerts on that. So they are not doing much to keep the peace yet. With only 400 people, it's impossible for them to bring peace to Haiti. If they had 4,000, they couldn't do it. And the mission is only for a total of 2,500. But they've already spent all their money. If they had 40,000, they probably couldn't do it. Why? Because these gangs are supported by the people for the most part. In their neighborhoods, when you talk to the people, they are afraid of the gangs, but at the same time, they will acknowledge that the gangs bring some form of stability to their neighborhood. We drove through 6 different gangs' territories yesterday. That is unheard of for a journalist and some humanitarians to be able to do that is unprecedented. That's, as far as I know, it's never happened, and especially never happened with the agreement of all of the gangs to let it happen. Thank you, Danny. I mean, that's never happened. That's incredible. And as we drove through all those places, when you get into the places where the gangs are in control, they're cleaner, they're more orderly. And there's a lot of armed guys standing around, a lot of armed thugs. So in Haiti, the people told us many times that the government, we've had 9 successive governments most of them instituted in some way, shape, or form by the United States, and none of them have helped us at all. Haiti is the way it is today because of the corruption of the elites in our country. Now, I'm going to make a case on a live I'll do later why I don't really believe that corruption is the cause of Haiti's suffering, because there are a lot of corrupt countries that don't suffer like Haiti does. I'm going to make a case for why I think that corruption is just a small part of it. But suffice it to say, we accomplished something Victor Marx did with his tenacity and perseverance that even the government and even the hundreds of peacekeepers and even the NGOs and even the United States government has not been able to do. And that's get these guys talking, dialogue, appeal to their sense of humanity, appeal to their pride even, if they don't have a sense of humanity. He appealed to their pride and negotiated a peaceful resolution to a part of the conflict in 2 days on the ground. He managed to do that. Thank you, Elaine. Very kind of you. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm out of time. I've got to run, folks. But thank you very much for watching. Just to recap for you, Yahya Sinwar is dead. It's been confirmed by the IDF through DNA analysis and dental records. He was killed in southern Rafah, right near the border with Egypt, trying to escape into Egypt, dressed in combat fatigues and hiding his face with carrying weapons, grenades, cash, fake ID, and with two of his bodyguards who were also killed in the and he was not killed in a operation. He was killed almost by mistake by some Israeli Defense Forces cadets who were not even in the military last year on October 7th. And this is one of their first combat operations. Can you imagine the celebration that's happening right now in that unit with those guys? They're like, we just showed up and became legends overnight. Like, we just got here. Thank you, Frederick. Very kind of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Please hit the like button. Got almost 4,000 people online. And by the way, I'm working on the plane today and driving here to write another chapter of my upcoming book on how to survive the elect apocalypse, which we have only got a couple of weeks left to get this thing out. But after what I saw in Haiti, I got a premonition of what America may look like at some point. I mean, what Detroit and places like that already look like, what Baltimore, San Francisco, downtown Dallas, what inner city America is already starting to look like, that's where Haiti is today. And so I just was pounding out another chapter that I'm going to add to this book. But you can get my notes on the book that I have out so far by going to, thank you, Frederick, appreciate that. You can get my notes on the book by going to chuckholton.com and becoming a supporter there. $7 a month. That's all it takes. You can do it annually if you want. But you can get access to like a sneak peek from my upcoming book. And you're free to print it. You're free to give it to your church. Part of the book has to do with putting together a crisis preparedness team for your church and how to do that and why you should do that, why every church should have a crisis preparedness team. And so I highly recommend you go see it every time. I mean, look, that thing has been, I have to say, I'm blown away at the demand for this book because it is already made more money. I mean, it's outsold my first two published books combined. But that was, of course, 20 years ago, and I was didn't have any platform at all then, so not surprising. But even still, there's obviously a dire need for preparation for what you need to do now to prepare for the violence and unrest that may happen after the November elections. no matter who wins, but especially if one of the candidates wins over the other. So go get that. You're going to want to get it, and you're going to want to implement it. Look, just having that is not going to help. You're going to have to put it into practice. And there's some real common sense things, and then there's also some things that I bet you have not thought of in that book to help you be safer if there is a generalized or localized loss of civility after the election. So I highly recommend you get it. Go over to chuckholton.com right now and you can get it by becoming a supporter there. So that's all I've got. I got to get back on the road now. So God bless you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.